Presto, Leader Fan Radio Network, and KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 4 seconds past 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. We welcome you back to a Friday Football Beast edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. It's the last Friday Football Beast edition until, one would presume, the 2026 season. Super Bowl 60 slated for this Sunday in Santa Clara, California. To properly explore and celebrate, we'll be joined by Sean Salisbury at the bottom of the hour. At about 3:47, so a little later than usual, the Super Bowl award-winning prediction segment. When I say Super Bowl, it's really, we predict games all year, but this week the only game we will, of course, cover will be Super Bowl number 60 with the redoubtable Carl Gerbschmidt, Gessling, 4:30. And the Underwear King himself, Lavelle E. Neal III, is scheduled for a 5:30 visit on the program. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line will be rebooted in a bit, not quite yet. There are a lot of people who come to the Super Bowl weekend and Super Bowl Sunday for the spectacle, for the drama, for the bigness of it all. Perhaps the one thing left that breaks down the polarizing nature of our politics. And even there, it gets complicated. But a lot of people watch. Do they watch for the game? Do they watch for the spectacle? Do they watch for the halftime show? Different people probably have different answers. And inspired by a StarTribune.com piece up now in which, speaking of redoubtable music critic John Breen, frequent contributor to this program, ranks his top 5 Super Bowl halftime shows in Super Bowl history, and he ranks his bottom 5 Super Bowl halftime shows. That got me down the rabbit hole, because many of those we've talked about before. Many of them are obvious. But I guess I forgot. I have honestly no recollection of the Super Bowl 23 halftime show played. This was in 1989. The headliner on that occasion. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the stage name of the individual who headlined Super Bowl 23 halftime show was somebody named Elvis Presto. Now, I'd either completely forgotten this or never knew it or had blanked it out. I'm not sure. We complain constantly. No one's ever happy about who we end up getting to perform at halftime, right? Everybody's got an opinion. This guy's too old. This gal's too young. This isn't have enough mass appeal. It goes on and on and on and on, right? But I think before we complain again, we should go back in history and remind you that it was whatever we're doing now, whatever we have been doing, it was once worse. The preeminent sporting event in the country, the Super Bowl halftime show, was once at the creme de la creme of, widescreen entertainment, mass appeal entertainment for the biggest sporting event, was headlined by Elvis Presto. Now, who was Elvis Presto? I had to look it up. I assume it had something to do with Elvis Presley, without it being Elvis Presley. Because I think Elvis Presley was already long dead by 1989. Will you look up Elvis Presley's the day he died? I was still in college, I think.
August 16, 1977.
That's it. So this is 12 years after his death. And Elvis Presto is the stage name. And I'm not making this up. You could look it up. Maybe some of you remember it. Of the Elvis Presley impersonator who headlined the show. played by dancer Alex Cole. No, not that Alex Cole, different. The character performed magic tricks and lip-synced to 1950s tunes as part of a 3D bebop bamboozled spectacular sponsored by Coca-Cola. Can you make this up? Elvis Presto, solid gold dancer. So there were portions of two Elvis Presley songs, Blue Suede Shoes and Burning Love. The rest of the show featured songs from musicals, among other tunes. Originally, he hadn't even been cast to impersonate Elvis, but was the choreographer for an individual who had previously played Elvis on Broadway, but that guy backed out. You don't back out of the National Football League halftime show, do you, at Super Bowl? He backed out, so they said, we got to get another Elvis impersonator, so they went with Elvis Presto. And by the way, it wasn't even, the vocals weren't even live. The vocals were pre-recorded, performed by somebody named Jody Lomedico. Jody Lomedico. Show also featured 2,000 South Florida area dancers and performers. A number of magic tricks had been considered. It decided that their big trick would be a large-scale card trick. The show also featured the use of 102 custom-made Harley-Davidson motorcycles, as well as pink Cadillacs and fireworks. God, I wish I'd have known this the last time I had Bob Costas on. The event was immediately preceded by a pre-taped introduction by Bob Costas. I wonder what I bet you he would be amusing with his recollections of the Elvis Presto halftime show in 1989. The moral of the story is, boys and girls, we've had a lot of bad ones, or a lot of weird ones, or a lot of ones that didn't seem very inspired. We've had the group called Up With People. You're way too young to know about that group. The very first one, University of Arizona Symphonic Marching Band, the Grambling State University Marching Band, Al Hurt, the Anaheim High School Steppers Drill Team, and Flag Girls. This one was played in L.A., Los Angeles, California, Jan 15, 1967. The next year, Grambling State Marching Band. Next year, Florida A&M Marching Band, along with Miami area high school bands. Couple years after that, Up With People, Anita Bryant. Then Ella Fitzgerald, Carol Channing, Al Hurt. Then the University of Michigan Marching Band. Andy Williams was part of Super Bowl VII. I'm trying to figure out what year do we have to get to where it feels like, all right, we're starting to get into a rhythm of big-name people in their prime or even slightly after their prime. I'm up to 12. Tyler Apache Bell's Drill Team, Apache Band, Pete Fountain and Al Hurt, who are good musicians. Guy Hurt was at a bunch of them. Up With People again. We're up to 15. Southern University Marching Band, Up With People again in 16. I was there for that one, Pontiac Silverdome. I don't remember it, but I was there. Los Angeles Super Drill Team the next year. This was when it was at the Rose Bowl. Another Up With People. How about George Burns' Mickey Rooney at halftime, along with a bunch of Disney characters? Chubby Checker, the Rockettes, 88 grand piano players. Then I mentioned Elvis Presto. That was in 23. I'm still scrolling. 25, we had New Kids on the Block. Is that when it started being like recognizable band names? Then, of course, the next one was here. January 26, 1992. Gloria Estefan. We turned it into a salute to winter. You know, we were Winter Magic, I think is what it was called. We were celebrating. We don't run from winter here in Minnesota. We don't mock it. We embrace it. We love it. Didn't go particularly well, as I recall it. Olympic figure skaters were a part of it. Brian Boitano, Dorothy Hamill, and members of the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, not to mention the University of Minnesota marching band. Here's where it feels like it went big time. The next year, that people were so traumatized by our Super Bowl halftime show in 92, the next year, guess who? An unprecedented Super Bowl spectacular starring Michael Jackson. I see. Okay, now we get it. It's only taken us 27 Super Bowls to figure it out, man. We got to go big. Big, big, big. Next year went country. Year after that, Patti LaBelle, Teddy Pendergrass, Tony Bennett, Diana Ross after that, the Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman, and Jimmy Belushi, ZZ Top, and the list goes on and on. But I got to tell you, I'm wondering if there's anybody listening via the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. Well, you wouldn't be listening via that, but could reach us via that, who remember the moment when Elvis Presto hit the center stage, halftime of that Super Bowl. Were you wowed? Were you impressed? Were you dazzled? Were we more innocent then so we could actually be entertained by somebody named Elvis Presto? Or do you look back on it and say you've never recovered from the trauma?
Here's the opening salvo from Bob Costas.
Oh, you got it.
Introducing the immortal Elvis Presto.
Let's hear it.
Welcome back to Miami and halftime of Super Bowl 23. You know, in a classic Honeymooners episode, Ralph Cramden once claimed that he wouldn't own a television set because he was waiting for the advent of 3D. Well, Ralphie boy, wherever you are, we hope you're watching now because here goes the first ever network broadcast in 3D. You're about to see an elaborate music and magic spectacular featuring tunes from the 50s and hosted by the immortal Elvis Presto. Elvis will perform the biggest ever card trick, where folks in the stadium will select a card, and it'll be revealed in a most unique way. It's almost too exciting to bear, isn't it? Well, if you've got the special 3D glasses, now's the time to put them on.
Oh, I love it. The Costas snark right there. It's almost too much. And then in the video, I did see that. He does put the glasses on, the 3D glasses on. Simpler times, man. More innocent times than where we tend to be today. Is it Bonus Bucks Day today on a Friday?
It is.
Let's do it.
Yeah, the fan wants to give away bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Send to KFAN.com. The keyword is dollar this hour. The keyword dollar. KFAN.com, keyword dollar. The one and only Monster Jam rolls back to U.S. Bank Stadium February 7th and 8th. That's this weekend. We got your tickets in. Check out our contest page, KFAN.com, keyword contest, so you could win a family 4-pack of tickets to tomorrow's show, KFAN.com, keyword contest.
Dan writes, one of our listeners, this is from area code 605. It should be noted that Elvis was still alive the last time the Vikings were in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's been a while. There's no question about that. I guess we can take some credit, like I said, for the shift to something less gimmicky. Because in the old days, it was like, we're going to throw like 23 things against a wall, a couple marching bands, a couple of entertainers, a couple of magic tricks, whatever. And it went so badly here that they said, all right, let's just get somebody really big and really good. And this was Michael Jackson. We missed Michael Jackson by 1 year. Think about it. And plus, we had all the good connections. I mean, you know, Jimmy Jam. I mean, he had all kinds of connections to the family. It would have been nice for him to pull that off here, but it was the next year. According to Bream, I'll pare down his list. It'll shock no one that he has for best Super Bowl halftime show ever, Prince in 2007. This will delight Pat Kessler, of course. He's got Beyonce number 2. That's from 2013. He's got U2 3 from 2002. He reminds us that this was far and away the most emotional halftime ever. How would the NFL deal with the post 9/11 hangover still enveloping the world? U2 unfurled a scrim with the names of all the people who died on 9/11 as Bono sang Where the Streets Have No Name. He's got Dr. Dre 4, got Lady Gaga 5. How about worst? Number 5, he lists Black Eyed Peas in 2013. He goes with Maroon 5 as the 4th worst. Third worst, Aerosmith. He notes that the role-playing comedic introductory bit with Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, and Chris Rock was a cute setup, and pairing NSYNC with Britney Spears made sense. Mixing Aerosmith, Mary J. Blige, and Nelly, and, well, you do want to miss everything, is the way he puts it. A hot mess, bottomed out with a group rendition of Aerosmith's Walk This Way. 2, Us, the aforementioned Winter Magic in 1992. Bremer writes, this was an attempt to introduce the joys of Minnesota's cold months by presenting a winter wonderland inside the dreaded Metrodome. Imagine an Ice Capades meets Disney World show with dancers, gymnasts, the University of Minnesota Marching Band, Frosty the Snowman, snowmobilers, and skaters on 3 snowflake-shaped sheets of ice. Olympians Dorothy Hamill and Brian Boitano hit the ice, as did members of the 80 U.S. gold medal team. They limped across the football field. Children performed a Frosty rap, and Miami's Gloria Estefan sang a 2.5-minute medley. At the end of it all, a disembodied voice declared, "Come feel the cold," not exactly enticing to explore Minnesota. As his worst, because he clearly forgot all about Elvis Presto. He's got Disney in the year 2000. The tribute to all things Disney was like a mashup of The Lion King on Broadway and an African drum circle with dancers and costumes created by Lady Gaga's designers. The Disney infomercial was not merely a series of halftime fumbles, but a complete dumpster fire. This question's been asked before. And I ask it not seriously because I know there's no possibility this could ever happen. What if we had a Super Bowl in which there was no halftime show? Could we handle it? Would we want to handle it? Because that's the way out of the box, because every year there's this teeth gnashing over, well, who's right? Who's big enough? Who brings us all together? Who's left? You can't just keep putting aging rockers out there, but who's ready from the kid? Who is it? And it's constantly, often it's wrong choice, not enough, trying too hard. There's a way out of the box. Just don't have one. Or go back to the old days. I'm not suggesting bring back Up With People, but what about a couple of marching bands? That's it. Or nothing. Not gonna work, I don't think, right?
Well, you lose all the normies who don't like sports but will still watch anyways.
We don't need them.
Party. Well, they probably want them for all their money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Also, I think there's a little bias against the Black Eyed Peas on that list.
Think that's a little too vicious?
Well, I'm just saying the Packers won the Super Bowl that year, so I think there's a little bias going on.
That could have been part of it. That's true. I think part of what he's saying is that he's not analyzing the strengths or weaknesses of a given band. He's just saying how they performed or how it was planned and how it was executed, all that sort of thing as well. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it. I mean, like everybody, I end up watching the halftime thing, but I really think maybe we would lose a lot of the controversy. Well, this guy's not patriotic enough. This one's un-American. This one, let's just not have one. Don't have a halftime show. Let's make it more about the purity of the game. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon, but it would take all the pressure off that everybody feels about threading the needle on who to get for the bowl. Here's an interesting nomination. Red Panda in 2027. Is she healthy again? She got hurt here, didn't she? I think she shattered her wrist.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
How about, like a special super duper version of Red Panda with all kinds of tricks. How about this? How about a Carl Wallenda high wire act without a net at the top of the arena? Do something less having to do with music and more to do with, almost like a big top circus kind of thing. Now, again, you don't want anybody, if they fall, it's not going to be all that easy to play the second half if there's a serious injury from the high wire guy, falling to his death. That would they still play the game? Well, it's a Super Bowl. They probably would. They probably have to.
Yeah.
Contractually, TV would demand it, I'm thinking.
We already went down the magic road with
That's
Presto,
true. That's
so I'm
true.
not sure you can go there.
Elvis Presto. That's just too good. All right, let's try to break early to get some extra time with Sean Salisbury. He's got a fairly tight schedule today, but he's going to give us, we think, a good 15 minutes. We'll talk Super Bowl 60 with him. We'll get his reaction to the moves the Vikings have made, including the firing of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and anything else that's stuck in his craw. The prediction segment will follow probably about 3:45, 3:50 or so with Carl Gerbschmidt. Stay tuned.
Fan.
On communication with Sean Salisbury. We're having some difficulty with the link up. I see on my screen right now, this is, I think, via NBC, the Winter Olympics opening ceremonies as we speak, which largely ends up being who's got the coolest, in the case of the Winter Olympics, winter jackets. We got Mr. Salisbury. Outstanding. Sean Salisbury, welcome back. I know your schedule's tight, so we'll try to get to some good stuff here quickly. Would you classify yourself as a Winter Olympics guy? Will you watch much? Will you be invested much in it? Or for you, is it just more of a curiosity?
Oh, he just left.
Oh, he left us?
That's fan.
We had him. All right, keep working it. You keep working it. Picks will be coming up a little bit later. Something about the 3 o'clock hour, I think. Yesterday it was, we had issues with Joe Cowley. But I think some of that had to do with him being buried in an arena. And sometimes the connection is not all of that good. Eventually we will, I know the Wolves are scheduled to have a series of pressers today introducing the newest members of the club. Not to mention, I believe Finchie and Tim Conley are scheduled to speak at some point or not. We may be able to join that a little bit later. And I have some hope of getting Mr. Conley. Well, actually, both Conleys on the show. It'd be nice to get Mike Conley back, although he's not officially back with the team yet. We'll get into those permutations. There's a reason for the delay that might well contribute to the Wolves' chances to add another relatively high-priced player once some of these players end up getting bought off, or bought out, I guess I should say. And then there's Tim Conley, the president of basketball operations as well. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 646-86. I think a bad halftime performance is better than no performance. It gives you more material for your daily complaints. That sounds snarky. That sounds like he is registering a complaint. Why are the Trumpers mad about Bad Bunny? Last time I checked, Puerto Rico was a Commonwealth of the United States of America, which is where he is from. NFL loves the controversy of the halftime show. Controversy brings clicks, clicks bring views, and those views bring in billions. That's what they say. Billions. Now, Salisbury claims he can't hear us, that he's not muted. So I don't know. Who knows what's going on? So Blakemore is working feverishly behind the scenes to see if we can save our segment. Love the idea of a non-musical halftime. How about bingo? A great big bingo game at halftime? A game show? Some special game show at halftime? Probably not. I don't think there is a good answer. I just, I need to find out, in fact, while we're working the phones here behind the scenes. Let me do a check here. Let me do a Google check on Elvis Presto. Let's see if he is trying to find out if Elvis Presto is still with us today. And his real name's Alex Cole. So let's see, Alex Cole, dancer, put it that way. Still alive. Says he was born in 1956. He's 69 years of age. Alex Cole, who once played the part of Elvis Presto. I'm looking through the text to see if anybody remembers that halftime show, because I certainly was around for it, but I have no. How about a WWE Championship match at halftime? Open air stadium, you could do a huge drone show. Elvis Presto ruined what was otherwise the first good Super Bowl in about 6 years. Many weren't still watching those previous ones. Virtually everyone was still watching Super Bowl 23, San Fran versus Cincy, and they were traumatized by Elvis Presto, the 3D gimmicks, 100-plus Harleys, pink Cadillacs, and a stadium-wide card trick. Like a car crash, it was horrifying, writes lawyer Tom. But one couldn't look away. Stand-up comics, Super Bowl halftime, too static. I think for most people, I just don't think it would work. Weird Al, well, we know Seifert would go for it. We think we got Shawnee? All right, Sean, we got you back now. I think we got it figured out. I apologize for our technical issues.
No problem, buddy.
Big,
you got me?
Yeah, I got you now. I was just asking real quick before we get to a couple of quick football items, whether you are a big Winter Olympics guy, kind of casually interested. The opening ceremonies, just going on now via NBC from Milan Cortina. A lot of pageantry today, but obviously some of the competitions have already begun. Do you watch a little of it, much of it, not so much? What's your Winter Olympic diet like?
And I can stay on for a while, Dan. I changed it, so I got you as long as you need.
Oh, awesome. Beautiful.
Hang up. I want to make sure I got you, so no rush. Although your fans might say, rush, get through, Sean. Get him off here.
No,
congratulations, too, by the way. Congratulations I know it's not that big a deal because you win a lot of awards, but the Barrett Media and being one of the top shows in the country, well deserved.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
If I had a vote, I don't. You would have been even higher than you are, but well deserved. I love the Olympics. Dan, it's changed for me. I don't know if it was COVID and the switch. I used to be, and this is the truth, I would wake up, and I love hockey. I'll watch hockey anyway.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
I love it. I do. I'm a bigger Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued with the downhill and the ski jumpers, and I watch, but it's waned over the last couple Olympics and maybe just this past, Winter Olympics. Probably not as much. The sad thing about it is, you see the promos on TV. It's not the same giddy, like anxiety.
Yes.
Oh, I can't. It's here.
Right.
I can't wait to sit in front. It's like, it's the TV's on. Let me see what's going on with the U.S. versus Sweden.
Sure.
Right. It's not the same. I'm intrigued with the Lindsey Vonn stuff.
Yeah.
I love watching. I'm a diehard in the Summer Olympics. I won't miss Dan Hicks and Rowdy Gaines and the swimming and the track and field just because they're inhuman. But like the snowboarders and all that, they trip me out how the guts they have. So yes, I do watch. But it's taken, I've been to Olympics in person as a fan in '84, the Summer Olympics. I do watch, but not as intently as I used to, and it's not fair because these Olympians, as you know, put all the as you guys being in a winter state, put all this time in, and we say, I'm not as interested yet. Everything in their life they've done is for this, right? So I try to put respect on it, but I'm not as hardcore a viewer as I used to be in the Winter Olympics, and that bugs me. But I'm not. Yeah. I didn't even know they had an event that started today, and you and I talk sports and watch it and do it. I knew it was coming up this weekend, but it doesn't have the same, oh my gosh, I can't miss this feel that it has in the past.
I will tell you this. I think part of the attraction for me, having covered, so I think I ended up covering 7 or 8 Olympics when I was still writing, is the winter part. Leaving aside here, it's obviously big. The number of athletes from Minnesota, it's dramatic. So it's big crazy business and interest here. But beyond that, for me, it's as much I like getting away from the bats and balls sports, and the more esoteric stuff that, let's face it, the rest of the 4 years I'm not going to spend much time with, and a lot of America is not going to spend much time with. And learning about it, personalities, the stories. And I will tell you, I've told this story before on the air. I can honestly say that when it comes to actually being there, covering an event on the scene, watching the Italian skier, the all-time great Alberto Tomba, going down the hill, like in one of the races, I think he had this impossible deficit that he made up, and me being at the bottom of the hill with the fans, watching him at the top of this hill, making his way down, people losing their minds only to see that he finds a way to make up the time he needed to and to win, and he's got that grin on his face. In terms of just being there on the scene, that's as thrilling and emotional as any team sporting event I've ever covered.
I love it. And Dan, you're so right. Like, for instance, this is going to sound crazy, and maybe it's just recall or how wacko I am, but I can remember growing up, and there was a ski jumper named Matti Nuukkonen.
Yes.
Matti Nuukkonen.
Yes.
And I got it. My first, remembering Winter Olympics, it wasn't hockey, right? Mm-hmm. And all this stuff. First of all, the broadcasters that have to do games where you get like the Japanese, and they got to call those games. Yes. Why am I losing my mind on the great Mike, the great hockey play-by-play guy who's done it forever? It was NBC's lead guy forever.
Al Michaels. Al Michaels.
Not Al. No. He just retired the most recent Olympics. He's like Ernie Harwell's there. He's been NBC's Mike. Why am I losing my mind?
Mike Emmerich?
Not Mike Patrick. Mike Emmerich.
Emmerich. Doc Emmerich. Yeah, Doc Emmerich. Yeah, he's
when
tremendous.
I hear him call hockey in the Olympics, and he's rolling through names that have 74 syllables, it's like
unbelievable.
I got to buy a vowel. It is, and I look at stupid stuff like that. But Matti Nuukkonen.
Yes.
And I'm intrigued with the downhill, and I love the Flying Dutchman. I friggin' love it. But you're right. I won't watch ski jumping another time until the next Olympics. So I'm with you. We cover all these sports and with bats and balls and football. I actually find it refreshing. And I'm quite frankly, at some point in time, you got to practice this snowboard stuff. And I'm like, at some point, somebody jumped up and missed it and fell. I know they do it on a mat at times. I'm like, they're nuts. And my respect for them is through the roof. But I'm with you. The anticipation of it and getting out of the other stuff is phenomenal. And I think that the broadcasters who study it, even the cross-country snow skiing where they stop and shoot, stuff that you wouldn't do normally, I'm really into. What's it, curling? I won't watch curling till the next Olympics.
Yeah, right.
But I'll watch some of it here. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. Part of it, I think, in the winter, too, is just the scenery. The aesthetics can be beautiful for all the obvious reasons, even more than
curling's a winter sport, right?
Yes, it is.
Curling's a winter sport.
Curling is a winter.
I know it's on ice. It's on ice, but I thought, well, hell, I can play bocce ball on turf, so I might as well be able to do that on some thin. But I do like some of them.
Yeah.
But I do get into it, and I am with you on this. And it is the beauty of the Winter Olympics is, quite frankly, mesmerizing. There's no doubt.
There's no question about that. And it's like with anybody. I think you end up maybe paying more attention to some stuff than others, and everybody has their favorites as well. Let's get to some football as well here. We have not talked since the Vikings dismissed the general manager of the team. I think it's probably wasn't a shock that they did it. The shock was that they seemed to wait longer than one usually does. That could have ended up just being the deliberate nature of the Wilfs not being around all that much, and maybe they put 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 together, and it took them a little longer to get there? I don't know. But they make that move. What did you make of it? What's your reaction to it from afar?
Dan, I tried that, and I'm glad you said from afar, because, you know, a lot when we're outside the building or not locally or not covering them every day, we'll hear stuff. When he first got the job, I didn't know a lot about him. I mean, I heard, I knew a little bit about his background, but not enough to know. Like, if you say to me, Sean, Marty Herney, well, I can give you, I can tell you what Marty Herney eats for breakfast, right? So, I didn't know enough about him, but I knew a little bit. If what I read, I don't know, was it Diana Rossini or something about his lack of commitment to the job. Now, you know how I felt about McCarthy is going to be a good player, but you know I felt letting Darnold walk was a mistake.
Right, you did.
That I thought, even for you and I both said, if franchise him, make him a do-over one more year.
That's what you're on.
Listen, everybody's going to hit on draft picks, and some are going to miss. But what took me over the top on this, and it doesn't surprise me that he was fired, and when a head coach and if there's disagreements or the speculation, we're all going to speculate on different things of the reasons why. But if part of the reasons were that disagreed on the quarterback, didn't show up to Senior Bowls, took a couple of weeks off. Now, listen, if your family's hurt or you got paternity leave or somebody's going through tough, I completely get it. But listen, you know what you get into taking the job as the GM. This is a job, not a hobby, and you got to be devoted to it. He may be the nicest guy in the world and dedicated, but what I saw, and if it's 80% true, he's a crappy-ass GM. That's about as kind as I can put, if that's the case. It tells me it was just any GM that doesn't show up to see, even if it's just optics alone, you have to be present. You have to be present. You're the GM. You're not the assistant GM. You're not an intern. And some of it there may be counteraction to this. To me, there were some things they could have done different. And if what I read from it feels like reliable journalistic sources, that he was, it almost felt, I don't want to say checked out, Dan, and you're closer to it than I am. That's why from afar is a good way. I would have done the same thing. And I know guys that don't sleep because of this job, let alone don't take 2 days off from their thing. Now, you deserve to be a human being. Yeah. But there's certain things about the optics of this and Senior Bowl stuff that you don't have that option unless somebody's sick, hurt, dying, or you're having a baby in labor. You just don't do that. And so to me, this decision, judging from that, if it's true or even 80% true, I can't move forward with it. And it feels to me like a lot of time he was in over his head. And if that's the case, I can do that job better than him, and so can you, if that's the case. Being present's half the battle. So don't know him. Right. I've never met him. And from my vantage point, the Minnesota Vikings will probably be better for it if, in fact, 8 out of 10 of that or 80% of what was said is true. Now, you can diffuse it if you know something different than me, and I haven't studied that, but I've seen it from afar, and from afar, this decision had to be made.
Well, part of what, troubles me about it is that you can put this way, what seemed to appeal to the Vikings, I think largely owners, and maybe a couple other people in the building about him was he's quirky. He comes at it from a different perspective, and we just had a hardcore guy with Spielman. Maybe we need some. Maybe you can't see the forest for the trees. So maybe you get a fresh look at everything, doing it a different way. Now the quirky sounds like, well, he just was too detached and made a lot of bad decisions in the draft. And so part of me says it's on him, but part of me says it's really on the team for not properly vetting, because to a certain extent, you could argue he gave them what they asked for, which was, I'm going to look at it a different way. I'm going to look at a lot of spreadsheets. I'm not going to do it the old-fashioned way. And so I would argue part of this is even on the team for hiring him in the first place, for not having a good handle on what that might mean. The other guy who was the finalist was Poles. And I think Poles comes from the more traditional, he's been in it for, Kwesi's been in it for a while, but Poles, I think, more traditional approach.
Involved.
So, exactly.
No doubt.
So part of this is on, you can put it on the guy for not doing it, but I say, well, to a certain degree, he kind of gave you what at the front end you thought was cool and different and modern about him. And now you're looking at it differently because obviously, especially related to the draft, the results were not very good.
Yeah, and you know what? Dan, and it's such a great point. Is quirky sometimes can be good, but quirky and different doesn't always mean different for better.
That's right.
It can be different for worse.
Yep.
And you are. I tell people, they say, okay, well, and somebody asked me about this situation. It wasn't in Minnesota. I said, well, your coordinator makes great calls and is just makes the right call, and everybody admits this guy's dominant. Yet I put the quarterback couldn't throw it through a car wash or couldn't hit the car wash, even though he's got a strong. He keeps throwing it to the other team.
Yeah.
But the coordinator's getting blamed. It's like, oh man, it all looked good, but the quarterback's got the ball in his hand. Same thing here. Is it while the owners that hired him, you put him out there, it looks good, but if he continues to make the wrong decisions, I got to go back to the dude who had the ball in his hand, either the quarterback or the ownership in this case, to vet it the right way. You hired him, so you go with it. So, whose fault is it? Well, if you're going to go through the process, that's why when an athletic director hires a head coach, my athletic director ain't going through 3 head coaches and get a hall pass. Dude, you're the one who hired him.
That's
you
right.
vetted him. And if it continues to make the wrong mistakes and you're paying him $100 million for 8 years to coach college football, guess what? At some point in time, I got to start to look at the person who did the hiring and vetting in the first place. In this case, right, change, we all look at it like, okay, cool. But the one thing I do know, Dan, it's really hard in this job. Things change in life, but the one thing that doesn't change is being present and being involved and being hands-on without being a micromanager where you don't let people do their jobs but you. It can become a problem. So it's all good, but you're right. It's the people. Should he have been hired in the first place? Did you vet it properly to know, is this really going to work in this business? And maybe it'll work again for him.
Yeah,
but in this case, the draft, who knows? But the one thing I know where reputation follows, if there's any hint of, hey, man, she's not present, he's quirky, doesn't do it. Now quirky doesn't become quirky or different. Quirky becomes lazy or disengaged, if that's the case. Even if it's not the case, that reputation starts to follow you around. So it didn't work. But if he's not showing up to those things, I would say my GM as an owner needed to be replaced, and it was time. But you're exactly right. Who did the hiring originally? Well, we know who did it, and it didn't work. And a little late to the party on when you were going to move on from it. But what looked good 3 or 4, or however many years ago this happened, is no longer in place. So I think it was the right move one way or the other. But you also got to start to look at, when you're hiring these GMs, are you asking the right questions of coaches and GMs when you do hire them?
Well, the one argument I've had regarding this decision is I don't think it's fair to him to just put the quarterback mess on him, because we've been led to believe that KOC has got more power than just as a head coach, given his quarterback background, and that's what he prides himself on. And I think that's a shared responsibility. I really do. I think that the one danger is a guy gets fired. You've been through this. He ends up getting blamed sometimes for stuff he might be responsible for and a few things he's not, because it becomes easy to pile on the guy, even in the building, off the record, because he's gone. And at the quarterback deal, I think this is every bit as much on the head coach as it is because we've been led to believe on a lot of quarterback stuff, Kwesi has deferred to KOC. Right. He's had a lot of power, and he's kind of being blamed, Sean, for not getting the Daniel Jones signing done. And even there, I go, well, maybe that's his fault because he's the GM. But you know, and I know, name me the best 5 GMs in football history. I'm not sure any of them could have gotten that done, because what Jones understood was the obvious, that the Vikings, starting with KOC, wanted JJ to be the starter this coming season. And so he knew, Jones did, if he had an opportunity someplace else like Indy, where they were already looking past their young quarterback, he was going to have a more decent chance to win the job from the beginning. And ultimately, I'm not sure, Kwesi or anybody else could have done anything about that.
Yeah, and Dan, of all the years I've played and broadcasted or coached it, I'll be honest with you, whether it's Ron Wolf in Green Bay, you talk about top 5 guys, right? When Polian was doing his thing early on,
right? We
can argue now with his Hall of Fame selections on Belichick and how he feels about that. But
yes.
As a football guy, Lynch and Shanahan, when it comes to a guy like Brock Purdy, I have never, Denny Green dealing with our front office or Bernsey, it doesn't matter. I have never been associated with or talked to anybody that one cat made the decision on your quarterback, ever. Matter of fact, it usually is. Now, the final decision, maybe. But with my quarterback, it's almost this precious commodity. It's like, wait a second now. I need 80 opinions. I'm going to make the final, but did you see something in that guy that I didn't? Did you see something? So you take all the information, and then one guy you hope, because you don't want 8 chefs in the kitchen, but it's rare that one guy's doing this, guy's doing it all, and I'm making this decision, and this is it. Because in truth, even if you feel like you know it, you still want to lean to somebody next to you who knows it too. You say, am I right? Am I evaluating this guy properly this quarter? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you're right about that. And I can't imagine a head coach, offensive minded, would take a job knowing that the groceries are going to be handed to him without him being able to read the label and say when the date is, you got to throw it away, right? And so I agree, but as you know, it's funny when things are going great. Oh man, the coach has got a great say in this. He's hands on with the quarter. When it goes bad, oh hell no, I wanted Sam here.
Right. Yeah,
that's
exactly
the way it works. And unfortunately, you get pinned with stuff that maybe 70% of it's yours, but the other 30% is unfair. And somewhere in the middle is the way it usually lands, and that's probably the case here. In fairness to Quezzy.
Yeah, I think that's definitely some of it. We're close to the top of the hour. Give me your quick. I got to admit, I feel bad saying this because I'm one of those people who sometimes whines about the same teams always winning, same quarterbacks. I'm not energized by this matchup as much as I'd like to be, but give me what you see, what you think of it, and what you think is going to happen on Sunday.
And you know what, Dan, I am for the same reason. I was talking about on my show today. I said, I'm playing off. It's the same team, and they're the best, and we've Mahomes, and we want those guys in it. And then they're in it, and we're bitching about it. And It's Philly and Kansas City.
Right.
And I want new teams. And when they come, like, oh, gosh, Drake May and Sam Darnold.
Yes.
Philly and New England. It's like, but I look at the other thing. They were the most consistent teams all year. One could have been the MVP, missed by a vote. The other's played as out of his mind for 2 straight years in Sam. Both defenses are out of their mind. Both coaches are hardcore grinders. Both teams are physical. Seattle's got a better roster. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a phenomenal talent. I mean, they got every element. I don't care what NBC says about the TV ratings. I care about good football.
Yes.
So I'm with you, but I get it. But we complain when we don't get the other side. I think it's going to be a closer game. I think this is a field goal game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I don't think either team usually beats themselves this year. Both quarterbacks have been fantastic. Sam's learned to make the boring play. Drake May's out of his mind. The one thing, that passing game is going to have to rear its head bigger in New England in this game. If New England is one-dimensional in this game, whether it's throwing or running, they will get beat.
I agree.
Now, the obvious is if one quarterback throws 4 picks, well, guess what? The other team's winning unless the other guy throws 4 as well. So that's the obvious. But keys is keep an eye on the dimensions of New England. Will they abandon one part of their game? They have got to have running, and even if it's not successful, you got to do both. You can't let the game get out of hand. Secondly, for Seattle, their front 7 can take over a game. They want to beat you physically. I think Darnold realizes he doesn't have to make every play to win, and Drake May's a player. For me, it's going to come down to this: the Patriots' underrated defensive unit. Can you generate enough problems for Darnold to feel like he has to make the plays, because he's starting to settle in here in the postseason. So for me, Seattle in a close one, I think it's like 24-20, 23-21 type of game. And I think it'll be ugly at times, but I can't wait to see how both these young quarterbacks, and Sam's been in it longer, but this is new to him too, how they deal with it. His resilience through all that he's been through will serve him well on Sunday. Give me Seattle by a field goal, and I am jacked about it because I want to see how these young quarterbacks deal with it. I think Seattle can make New England one dimension. First team to 24 wins, I think it's Seattle.
Outstanding work. I apologize for the problems early, and we appreciate all your contributions again this year. We'll probably give you some time to rest because I know you got a lot of other stuff to do, but hopefully stay in touch as stories develop and we maybe get back to the quarterback discussion, who else the Vikings might be able to put into the mix, because they clearly want to bring a veteran here as well. So we'll try to stay in touch intermittently if that works for you.
Brother, I'm here for you. I appreciate everything, the great fans, everything you do, and that you invite me in. And, it's special for me because it's a place I played most of my career. And you always make it easy, man. I'm honored to do it, and I'm here anytime you need me.
Thanks, man. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Sean.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Sean Salisbury, kind enough to join us. Predictions generally are at 3:30, but with the schedule change today, we're going to take a short pause, and then we're going to get Gerby's Super Bowl prediction. We'll find out what Gerby's favorite Super Bowl halftime show might be. And is he a big Bad Bunny guy? We'll find out.